The Tories have completely imploded, Matt. They have zero chance of winning the general election. So why is Keir Starmer welcoming people like Natalie Elphicke, hard right Tory MPs? I mean, some people describe her to the right of Suella Braverman. Why are we welcoming Tory MPs like this into the Labour Party? You know, it absolutely tramples all over the rich history of our party, and really does stick in the throat.
Let's turn our attention to some breaking news this morning. Reported on the Times, a new YouGov poll for the Times suggests Labour's got its biggest polling lead since the Liz Truss era. Times Red Box editor Lara Spirit has got the details. Lara, crunch the numbers for us.
Yes. Hi, Matt. So Labour is 30 points ahead of the Conservatives, which is the worst gap that the Tories have had between them and Labour since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister. And actually, in some ways, it's worse than even the 37-point lead that we saw Liz Truss have in the wake of the mini budget, because the Tory vote share is lower. It's 18 points. It's the lowest it's been for a huge amount of time. And part of the reason for that is that 1 in 4 reform voters are saying that they will now vote. 1 in 4 Conservative voters from 2019, are saying they will now vote for Reform UK. And obviously that comes after last week when Reform UK narrowly missed out on second place in the Blackpool South by-election. Conservative MPs pretty concerned about what influence they could have if indeed they do stand in every seat at the general election. So it's bad news, this poll. I've said in Red Box this morning, it's the worst poll Rishi Sunak has had yet. And I think that's definitely true. And it certainly, I think, makes Rishi Sunak's claim at the start of the week that we are heading for a hung parliament look that little bit more optimistic.
Is there any reason for optimism for Rishi Sunak?
So I think you can certainly see why Rishi Sunak is making this hung parliament claim from some of the other questions we asked, or YouGov asked rather, for the Times about this hung parliament. So the Labour lead does narrow slightly if you ask those who think it's possible there will be a hung parliament how they would vote. And only narrows to 25 points, which I think I should add is still a very commanding Labour lead. But it does, I think, suggest why Rishi Sunak is making this claim about a hung Parliament. And actually, we saw that in 2015 with David Cameron's coalition of chaos, which is sometimes credited as getting him over the line to a majority. The strategy there is somewhat clear, but I think with polling leads for Labour like this, it's very difficult to see how even that kind of, slightly positive look on it is anything but difficult for the Conservatives with these numbers.
And we'll hear a bit about this a bit later on in the focus group as well. Downing Street, Number 10, the Conservatives try to talk up the idea of a hung parliament, but voters don't think the same.
Yes, exactly. So YouGov asked whether or not they thought people would see a hung parliament as likely, and the figures showed that just 14% thought there would be a hung parliament after the general election. That's compared to 66% of people who expect an outright Labour majority. Just 5% said there would be a Tory majority of some sort. So despite Rishi Sunak making those claims after the local and mayoral elections last week, it doesn't really seem that voters are convinced.
And just to sort of put the cherry on the cake, another Conservative MP announced they're standing down, the 64th, Nadhim Zahawi, the former, briefly Chancellor, of course, saying it was time for a new energetic Conservative to replace him, admitted, "My mistakes have been mine." Remind us what those mistakes were, Lara.
Yes. So Nadhim Zahawi, I wrote this morning, as the former Chancellor. He was very briefly, of course, the Chancellor at the tail end of Boris Johnson's government. But when he returned as party chairman under Rishi Sunak, he was sacked just 4 months later after a serious breach of the ministerial code following days of questions over his tax affairs. That's after Sunak's ethics advisor said that he had repeatedly failed to disclose details about an HMRC investigation, and also accused Zahawi of making an untrue public statement. So Sunak judged that a serious breach of the ministerial code at the time, but Zahawi now saying he will stand down after 14 years in Parliament, and as you say, joining the very, very long list of those who will be doing exit interviews with you because they too are joining him.
But we'll see. We'll see if he'll join us for that. Love, really good to speak to you. Last bit there, Times Redbox editor. And if you are a subscriber to the Redbox morning email, you'll have got the details of that poll before anyone else. With your Times subscription, just go to thetimes.co.uk/Redbox. Sign up now, and you can get Lara and all of those exclusive analysis and polling and everything else in your inbox every morning at 8:30. So just, thetimes.co.uk/Redbox. Well, I don't want to sort of linger on Rishi Sunak's woes, but they are sort of everywhere. But did the big defection that we got just before PMQs yesterday, has this caused a bigger headache for Keir Starmer rather than Rishi Sunak? Just about 1 minute before midday yesterday, we were told that Natalie Elphicke, the Conservative MP for Dover and Deal, was joining the Labour Party. She went and sat behind Keir Starmer for PMQs. Well, let's now bring in Martin Abrams, Labour councillor and spokesperson for the left-wing Labour faction Momentum. Hi, Martin.
Good morning, Matt.
Are you welcoming Natalie Elphicke with open arms into the Labour family?
I mean, not quite. We're living in a topsy-turvy world, aren't we, Matt, where Natalie Elphicke is a Labour Party MP, but Diane Abbott, the first black female MP, isn't a Labour Party MP. And, that's not the only thing that is deeply concerning to Labour Party members. It's the fact that, Natalie Elphicke has got many, many scandals behind her that we've just heard from Gabriel there, being suspended from the House of Commons for supporting, for trying to influence, the judge in her husband's case. She backed Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. She supports Israel's bombardment of Gaza. The list goes on. I mean, in terms of Labour Party values, attacking trade unions and P&O during the firing rehire scandal there, she voted against plans to ban fire and rehire, which, when 800 plus P&O workers had just been sacked via video link, is utterly shameful. So it really does, feel like we've gone totally through the looking glass when you've got Keir Starmer's spokesperson saying that they're confident that Natalie Elphicke shares Labour values, and Annalise Dodds, saying that Natalie Elphicke is a good natural fit for the Labour Party. The Labour Party are currently polling 30 points ahead of the Tories. The Tories have completely imploded, Matt. They have zero chance of winning the general election. So why is Keir Starmer welcoming people like Natalie Elphicke, hard right Tory MPs? I mean, some people describe her to the right of Suella Braverman. Why are we welcoming Tory MPs like this into the Labour Party? It absolutely tramples all over the rich history of our party, and really does stick in the throat.
There'll be some people who say, well, actually, it's because he's changed the Labour Party. He's moved it from the Momentum days, the Jeremy Corbyn days on the left. He's moved to the centre, and therefore the Overton window, whatever we would call it, the broad church has moved, rightwards away from Momentum, and that maybe then is why there's room for Natalie Elphicke in it.
I mean, come on, Matt. Natalie Elphicke is not in the centre. She's if the Overton window has moved that far, I mean, we're really living in a utterly bizarre world. And, it really does show that Keir Starmer has a deep lack of integrity when he's kind of pandering to these anti-migrant sentiments. Let's remember, Matt, just 4 years ago, Keir Starmer was elected as Labour Party leader on the back of 10 solemn pledges. Pledge 6 of his 10 pledges was defending migrant rights. Okay, a few years later, he is welcoming Natalie Elphicke, who has completely trodden all over any semblance of migrant rights, demonising migrants, trampling all over their rights, and, creating a huge amount of scaremongering in the process. And then Keir Starmer welcomes this person into the party. I mean, personally, Matt, I am sick to the back teeth of being lied to and gaslit by Keir Starmer and people in the Labour Party. We're currently living in a world where hard right Tory MPs are welcomed into the Labour Party and said to have Labour Party values, where Diane Abbott is suspended, and where people who are supporting the awful bombardment and a plausible case of genocide in Gaza are described as moderate, and those that are opposing it are described as extremists. We are completely through the looking glass here, and it is no wonder that there are so many angry Labour Party MPs about this decision. Often it feels like Keir Starmer's faction is just trying to troll the left faction of the Labour Party, and no doubt they'll be sat in their HQ, sniggering and giggling about this. But this isn't a game. Politics is not a game. These are real people's lives we're talking about. There are key issues with migrants crossing the channel, but Keir Starmer said he would defend their rights in order to get elected. So that would include things like really looking after those refugees that need a place of sanctuary, that have left war zones, that are desperately in need of a place of sanctuary. I'm sick to the back teeth of being lied to and gaslit about this, and so are many other Labour Party members. So it's an utterly bizarre decision. It is going to be angering many people. I can't see the political advantage to this when Labour are already polling so far ahead.
OK, Martin, well, I introduced you as a Labour councillor and a spokesman for Momentum. Earlier in the week, we had Hilary Shannon, who was a Labour councillor, former co-chair of Momentum, and she's quit from both and is now sitting as an independent. Has it crossed your mind to resign as well?
Well, listen, Matt, I've been a member of the Labour Party for the best part of 2 decades. So, I've seen the ebb and the flow of, left ascendancy, Labour right in the ascendancy. So, no, I'm not thinking about that. The Labour Party, is a broad church. What I would say is that, talking about being sort of through the looking glass, it is a bit of a hostile environment, the Labour Party, for those on the left. I am a Labour councillor, but was suspended from Lambeth Labour Group recently for voting against for a ceasefire. There was a motion in the council, and we were told to vote against that. I lost the Labour whip because of that, and this is what I mean about it being, a topsy-turvy world and us being gaslit. The Labour Party has to be a place where people can stand up for Palestinian rights, where people can stand up for migrant rights, where people can stand up for public ownership of our utilities. These are true Labour Party values. And at the moment, Keir Starmer is kind of trampling all over those, tearing up those 10 solemn pledges that he made to get elected, and making it into a very hostile environment for people on the left. So, it is difficult.
OK, Martin.
But we'll keep speaking out and speaking up.
Martin Abrams, good to speak to you this morning, Labour councillor and spokesperson for the Momentum Group.